Hi, it's Gadget UK here again. As you can see, this time I'm looking at my SNES. I'm going to de-yellow this, that's what I'm going to do with it. So, we'll take the lid off, take the cart out, I'll show you the underneath and you can see, hopefully that's coming down, the contrast difference between the top and the bottom half there. I mean the top half's a bit faded as well really, if you compare to a good condition controller here. You can see, yeah, it's a bit darker. I'm not too bothered about the top, but I'm going to give the I'll give the bottom a go first. I think I'm going to leave the top just for the moment. I might give the top a go after I've cleaned the bottom, but it's very, significantly yellowed here. So get some H2O2 onto it. So I got the 6 screws out from underneath using one of these, security bits you can get that work on the N64 and on the SNES here. I need to get various screws out around the board here now, because obviously it's held in with some of those as well. So I'll just show you, that's just come out of it, that little weird bug. It's a dead bug. Yeah, never seen anything like that before. It's got like a browny sort of shell to it. Anyway, I'll put that in the bin. But as you can see, if I can zoom the right way, case is completely stripped down now, taking out these bits of copper. You've got these little posts over there. It's probably not copper, it's probably steel or something, or zinc coated or something. But anyway, so we'll get those out. There's nothing else on here I'm worried about the H2O2 interfering with. I'll probably stick some tape over this label, I think, while I think in advance. It shouldn't affect it. It doesn't usually affect things like that, but you never know, it could just pull the ink off there. And it's in good condition, so yeah, I think the rubber feet will be okay. Yeah, it should be alright. So here's a quick update after I've just got going with this really. You'll have seen the picture there from last night when I gave it its initial coat. If you look how yellow this is on the inside here, I've not put any of the peroxide on it, there's no point, it's a waste really. And if you look on the outside, it's looking a lot greyer. I don't know how well that's coming out. There was definitely a contrast to me. There, it's very, very, very yellowed on the inside, not quite as yellowed on the outside. And in fact, it's looking a lot more grey than yellow now. So that's just from one. I gave it one coat last night, and I put it out in the sun this morning with the second coat on it. So it's been out for about 6 hours this afternoon. Well, this part 2 or 3 hours this morning and 3 hours this afternoon here. So it's just started raining, so I've just rinsed it off to see what state it's in, and I'll now give it another coat and leave it overnight again, and then perhaps put it out in the sun again with another coat tomorrow. And hopefully, I don't know if you can tell, but it's like the lighting here is not very good, but that is looking a lot more grey. The inside is very, very, very greeny, sort of yellowed, but the outside was just the same. So I'm quite pleased with that. And you notice I didn't need to cover up those serial numbers and things there. I think the laser etch does something, so those aren't a problem. And it's the same with the rubber feet. Nothing affects that. The peroxide there doesn't seem to affect the rubber, so that's good. And in case you're wondering, I mean, I wouldn't recommend this brand. This is one that I got off eBay. It's supposed to be 12%. Again, you get it on your fingers and it doesn't leave any white marks. It's like, I don't think that's 12%. I'm pretty sure that's like 2 or 3% at most. There's next to nothing in there in terms of peroxide, but and it's also mixed with a bit of vanish oxy action. That's the best thing to put this to mix with. Put a teaspoon or a tablespoon or something in when you stir it up, and then just brush it on, and just make sure you rinse your brush off, because it will absolutely eat away at the bristles on the brush. Right, so this is after, I think it's had 4 coats. It's had like 2 proper nights standing over, one in the sun, one out morning out in the sun. And then another coat sort of in the middle of the day in the bath. So it's had 3 coats in the bath effectively, and 1 outside. Still looks yellowed in this light. It's not going to go the same grey as the top side of the case. I do think they're intentionally two-tone in the colour scheme there. But I'll clean this off now and I'll show you what the difference, because you can actually see on the inside versus the outside, because I haven't done the inside. Right, well here we are. I'm tempted to give this another coat or two actually. Oh, can you see you get like a streakiness? Can you see down here? There's still some sort of dark patches, and you've got like the light patches sort of mingled in between. It's the same here. Now I'm not too bothered about the underneath, the bottom particularly. It's the sides and the fronts. You can see where there's been a couple of scratches on there in the past, but still just a little bit yellowy just towards the top, whereas the bottom half's not so bad. If you look at the inside, look how yellow that is. Hopefully you can see the contrast there. The light's not helping, but it's like it's, you know, on the outside it's grey. Ignore that scratch. There's not a lot you can do about that. Although that will get a bit better as the H2O2 works more. You know, put more of it on the top part here, because it's not had quite enough, I don't think. But the yellow on the inside, that's what it looked like previously. So there's a huge difference there. You know, from once the lid's on, the presentation from the front here, it's you know, if you look at those vents, it's pretty grey. But you've still got, if you can see there, some patchiness around there as well, a bit of patchiness over here, and again on this side it's just a little bit yellow, just still on the top half of it. So I think I might just give this another couple of coats at least, just to see if I can balance that out a little bit towards these edges, because that's all I'm really bothered about, the front part there and the edges, but it's significantly better as things stand. But hopefully you can see what I mean about the patchiness there. Can you see you get like these little light streaks? You've got to be careful, because sometimes you can make, you know, the streaks can get worse. I'm not sure whether it's, you know, what sort of chemical reaction goes on there, whether how you get the streakiness, but I've seen the same thing in the Amiga 500 cases. If you're not careful, it's just certain types of plastic. Some plastics you don't get that at all, and then other plastics like this that go really yellowed, you know, the really deep yellow ones, those seem to be the worst. Now it just may well be that it just needs more coats, but I've nothing really much to lose with this, because it's the underneath anyway. You know, you can't really see it unless the sides go horrendously streaky. I mean, it's a bit streaky up here, but that, I attribute that more to scratches and things more than anything. The other thing is with this, they balance out. Once this has been exposed to natural light for a period of time, certainly the sides and the front stuff, it will balance out. It starts to, any little patchiness things seem to go away. Because these will naturally yellow again with time anyway. Might just try it with the lid on actually, just to see what it looks like. Yeah, so here it is with the case, the bottom part back on. You can see it is still significantly yellowed, in my opinion. It's a lot better than it was, considerably better than it was, maybe 50% better than it was. But I am going to give this at least another 2 or 3 coats, I think, because it's still, you know, it still does look pretty aged there. Even from the front, I mean, you've got to ignore those 2 posts, because you can see the yellow on the inside of those, but still, you know, it's not even here and stuff, so it does need more work. It'd be stupid really to reassemble it like that, I think. So before I stick this back in the bath here, might even stick it out in the sun actually, it's sunny today, I'll just point something out, and that is the plastic on these cases, when they go yellowed like this, they become mega brittle. I don't, you can see I had to super glue this. There was 2 pieces actually that got smashed out there, and I don't really want to demonstrate because on this particular piece of plastic, because I'll break it again. But if I just show you, if I just get the DS, right, so I've got the DS here. If you imagine that this is the case, you know, the actual plastic, when I was putting it on the tray, it touched the tray, and with this sort of speed it went like that. Literally that force, just a touch, as I put it into the tray, bang, piece shattered out. I'm not kidding, you know, there was no, it wasn't, you wouldn't believe how little, you know, force you've got to use to chip and smash these. It's no wonder actually that when I got those 2 spare PAL SNES boards, even though they had cracks and things in the cases already, that when they arrived they were just completely shattered into hundreds and hundreds of pieces, because they need no impact at all. And I'm also wondering if I've seen this actually before, where the plastic goes really brittle because of the yellowing, but by the time you de-yellowed it, it's not quite as brittle. So I'm actually tempted, before I reassemble this, actually to give the inside a go as well. Not to get it as clean as the outside, but just to help see if I can reverse that process a little bit, because it does seem to make a difference to remove it. Yeah, I don't know how that works. You swap. I don't know what you're swapping. You're swapping oxygen atoms with hydrogen atoms or something. I don't know whether it's a stronger link or what. I don't know enough about the chemistry there to understand that, but it definitely does make a difference. Got to be really, really careful with these yellowed cases on the SNES. This is one of the SNESes that I showed on one of my earlier pickups videos. I think it was a faulty SNES boards or something for spares, and that's what I was going to use these for. But at the time when I tested this one was given some graphical issues, I think. So it's either going to be probably one of these PPUs or probably the SRAM. Now the SRAM's more probable, so I think in the first instance I'll power this up, see what state it's in, just make sure it is the one with the graphical corruptions. Have a look at the pinouts of these SRAMs. I think they're 32K. It's like 62256 type, equivalent chip. And we'll just see if I can influence the behaviour by shorting a couple of the data pins on these whilst it's connected. That might not be a good idea actually. It might cause the CPU to crash. I don't know, but we'll just see what I can do there. If there's any way of determining which one of these might be the one that's faulty. It's one of those scenarios really where if you're replacing one, there's only two of them, you may as well replace the other one anyway. It's end of life thing again. I mean, it could just be a fluke. It could just be that one's just glitched out, died much earlier than a standard, the other one would do anyway. But they're only £1 or £2 each, these, so it kind of makes sense to replace them both, really. But in the first instance, it'd be nice to understand which one is the faulty one. So you can see the issue there. Can you see we've just got some graphical corruptions, these little lines and things through the images there. Yeah, I think that's more indicative of the SRAM rather than a PPU fault. Yeah, neither of them are getting warm. I don't think I'm going to get any clues from this without, looking at this with a logic analyzer. You're not going to be able to probably work out which one is the offending chip, to be fair. I'll do a quick test anyway. I'll just see if we can short out the data lines, a couple of data lines. I'll pick bits 1 and bits 2 on one chip, see what effect that has, and then do the same on the other. It may well be that one is used for sprites, the other one's for colours or something, or background images, foreground images. I've got no idea how the split between those two SRAMs, and it may well be that the split between addresses within the different SRAMs, so you might not be able to tell anything from doing that. I may even crash the PPU. Sorry, losing my voice. So I'll just quickly look up the pinouts. I'll leave this on for a minute actually, just to let it warm up, see if either of the SRAMs gets warm. I'll report back in a minute. So I'll show you this as I'm doing this. I'm looking at IC5 here first of all. I'm just going to short out the first two data pins, D10 and D1, or D1 and D2, depending on which way you look at it. You can see it's changing the sprites there. Move on to the next two. Yeah, again, bottom one, okay. That's the first three data pins, and then if we move up to some of the others, you can see similar issues there, when you... but it looks to be changing the sprite, really, rather than the actual bits within those sprites. Let's get rid of it completely. Yeah, considering those blue lines are still there, all the time, I'm thinking it's not that chip. If we move on to the other one, sorry, it's not easy to do this. You can see a subtle change there. It'll look like we're onto the actual pixels within the sprites, as you can see. So I'm thinking it's that one. I'm thinking it's U4. Very subtle changes there as I'm shorting some of these pins together. Very subtle indeed. Yeah, I'm going to give U4 a go, I think. Yeah, that was an address line. Anyway, so I'll swap out U4 and we'll see where that gets us. I'll try not to obscure as much of the shot as I did last time. Could do with some capstan tape around that switch there, really. I've not got any to hand, unfortunately. But yeah, hopefully it shouldn't take too much heating to get this off. I have to get my pointy tool ready that I used to like to use to lift these things. And I just try and put it sort of, I don't know if you can see that, just support it underneath, not put any pressure on it, just support it underneath the chip, and when it's reached temperature the chip will move really, really easily. Shouldn't take long actually, because the pads are quite small on these boards. Starting to come off already, there we go. Hopefully you can see that. Just carefully hold and move that just slightly out of the way. Okay, so that's that chip out of the way. Clean it up with a bit of the solder braid. And we'll get one of these new 62256s on there. So pads all cleaned up nicely there. I'll get some flux on. I've got very little in this tube left actually, it's going to be quite hard to get this bit out of here. And then we'll get the new chip on. So similar thing to the last video really, just get a little bit of solder and just tack a corner. This is the wrong type of solder really, I've got quite thick solder there. I'm fully aware that's not aligned at all, but what we can do is just heat that up and then just start to arrange it a little bit. And I'll inspect with a magnifier. Yeah, that's not too bad. Well, we've got the same problem there, so I'm wondering if it's the PPU. We'll swap out the other SRAM anyway, just to see. I'll report back in a minute. So a bit of a stab in the dark this. I've removed PPU 1, I'm just going to swap out, this is actually the replacement. I took off another board that's also faulty that gives a black screen. So, well, it'll be interesting to see, do we get a black screen or do we get some different behaviour, or is it just the same as it was? That would just leave PPU 2, I think. I had reflowed the solder on all these. You can see here, it's a bit brown this. Someone's replaced that CPU in the past, I think. I don't know whether that's been replaced out of factory. It's got an unusual colour to it, but the CPU I'm pretty sure is alright. I did spend quite a bit of time testing connectivity between the PPU and the two SRAMs here, couldn't find any issues. Same with the cart slot. There is a bit of corrosion on this which I'll show you later, just at the front here, and there are some connections there that go to the PPU, but those are all alright, there's no issues there, unless that corrosion that's caused one of these to fail at some point on those particular pins, I don't know. strictly speaking, I should get the logic probe onto this, but I don't think that's going to help really, because both the the data buses and things are in parallel on these, so you still don't really know which one it is without a logic analyzer or some sort of test ROM that will identify which PPU is faulty. Anyway, I'll get that replacement PPU on there now. We'll see how it behaves. So this is just a quick update here. It's a bit of trial and error. I'm just experimenting more than anything, just to see which chips are faulty on some of my spares boards and things, and see if I can get this one up and running. I swapped out the PPU. I was getting a black screen. Now I double checked the work I'd done there and reflowed it and tested the connectivity, and it was all okay. It looks the pins look a bit of a mess on some of these actually. They don't always go back down flat even when you pull them off perfectly straight, if you like, with the hot air. Anyway, so one of the PPUs, PPU ones, give a black screen. I put the original PPU one back on here, and yeah, it's working again. It was exactly the same in terms of the graphical corruptions after I swapped it back to its original PPU. So then I thought, well, I did some research actually, and I read an article which I'll post link to down below, and it suggested that you can get graphical problems with the CPU as well, strangely enough. So I swapped out the CPU. Now, some of the graphical issues have tidied up a bit. You were getting like little lines across the screen. Those have all gone as a result of swapping out the CPU. But we've still got a problem with the access to the VRAM. Now, I managed to run the diagnostics car, which I'll briefly show you in a minute, and it was reporting the DMA faults and a problem with the VRAM. Now, the VRAM was not an issue. So we're probably still in the realms of looking at one of these two PPUs. Now, I've not got a replacement for PPU 1, and I think that's probably the one that's faulty. But in the meantime, I've been looking at how these, access the or connect to the work RAM, and they both have connectivity to the work RAM as well. I'm just wondering if this is the side that's faulty. It looks to me like some of the stuff's paged in to the work RAM, and then on certain cycles, perhaps the PPU. Either of the PPUs can gain access to this work RAM. I think maybe to copy stuff into the VRAM. I'm not sure how that works. So I'm going to swap this out. This will be an easy one anyway. If anything, it's going to help me test whether the work RAM on the other board that's completely dead, that gives a black screen, whether that works or not. So it's a good test to do. So that's what I'm going to do next. So the interesting thing is you can see what I mean here now. As this comes up, yeah, we've got some issues there with the graphics as they zoom in and out, but then they look okay. Now the colours aren't quite right. Maybe some additional fault has has appeared in the PPU 1 from heating it. But you can see there we've not got the lines. Well, there's a few pixels and things out of place, and the colours don't look right. But the lines that were there, across all of the sprites and things across the thing, they're all gone. And that was the result of swapping out the CPU, strangely enough. So yeah, it's very strange. Anyway, I'll swap out that work RAM now. Okay, quick update here on these scrap boards. Swapped out the WRAM, made no difference at all. So at least I've ruled out my WRAM's alright, so I've now got a spare WRAM. PPU 2, swapped that out, same thing, didn't make a difference at all. So at least I've now got a spare PPU 2 as well. The CPU, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, did make a difference. It improved the graphics a little bit, strangely enough. So I think the CPU's a bit glitchy. I'll try and get that working on another board to see if it's showing the same glitch on the other board. But I need a PPU 1. Now, the one I first tested, it's ironic, isn't it? First chip I targeted after I'd swapped out the SRAM was the PPU 1, and they gave me a black screen. So that replacement is not working on that other board. That's probably one of the faults on that board. Now on this board, this was a board that was donated to me a while back. You can see there was some damage down here as someone tried to lift a few of the pins and things on this, and you can see they had a go trying to just Dremel into it to get to the pin that's missing. Sorry, it's not focusing very well there. There's a pin missing here. Some of the pins are a bit bent. Now, I've as straightened as I can possibly get them. Should be able to mount this, I think, if I can recover that pin. So I'm just going to get the Dremel onto that. There's no point in soldering it on there until I actually Dremeled it to see if I can actually access the copper trace there, just on the very edge of where that pin is. And I'm going to have a go with that because I think this PPU works. So if that works, then this board then should be operational, hopefully. So I've got some safety goggles on. It's going to be pretty tricky to do this on camera. Right. So here's a quick look on Super Macro. You can see the state this chip's in. This is not something I've done. These two pins were bent like this. A few here were bent as someone tried to do corrective action to try and resolder the pin here, but you can just about see. Can you see we've got 3 or 4 of the internal connections exposed there, and importantly it's that very bottom one. So it's going to be very tricky to solder onto that. You can just about see it, but yeah, I need to, and I'm obviously going to need to straighten these pins out a little bit before I try and solder this back on onto the board. But yeah, I'm going to try and make use of that. Otherwise, this would just be in the bin. And I think this works from what I understand. It really is just that pin that's just got broken off when someone tried to do the 60 Hertz mod. So yeah, if I can get this up and running, it'll be a nice spares/test board for me. So the problem with this SNES, it doesn't power up at all, there's nothing on the screen. But I don't know, you can see we've got some corrosion around here. You can see all the discoloration on the PCB. And I don't know, you can just about see that cap's domed, so that cap's gone. I'll need to check out the bridge. But we'll need to just clean up around here. There's some corrosion around that little SOIC or whatever it is down there, that surface mount chip. Clean up the board, examine carefully, and certainly swap out that cap and see what's what. So there's a closer look for you. You can see this cap's looking a strange colour. Top of that, this cap is domed, so yeah, it's definitely gone. So that was the quickest fix ever, really. It just needed a new cap. You can see I've got a new 2200 microfarad cap on there. I've cleaned up all of the area where it had leaked and stuff. There's no corrosion or any signs of the corrosion remaining there. I'll probably take this back out of this board later and clean the case, because you can see that you can just see down here it's a bit dirty in the corner. But right now I think I'm just going to quickly clean this lid up. But I have just tested it, it does work. I'll show you that in a minute. But I'll clean this lid up, just put the rest of the lid on it and just give it a bit of a test. Well, I think I'll give this a full overhaul after. Can you see there's all dirt in all the vents and the little slits and stuff? It really needs a good clean. You can see just wiping it here. Look at the crap that's come off the surface of it. Really, really, really dirty. So yeah, I'll get all the plastic parts off and clean it down in the sink. It's looking pretty immaculate actually. It's not, it's not really yellowed. The bottom part's a little bit yellowed, but the top is just fantastic on this one. So yeah, I'll keep this as my main spare, I think. And I think what I'll do is use the other one to get some sockets on there in order to be able to test out a load of the chips off the other boards, see if I can work out what's what with the other boards. As you can see there, that's working fine. Sweet. I'm amazed actually with those last two. I've been really lucky. No CPU or PPU faults, both simple faults. So that's the inside of the case cleaned out, board's cleaned up, the lid is all cleaned up, looks like brand new. So I'll reassemble that one. That one's going to be my main working spare. So here you go, you can see it working. Superb. Tested this for a few days now, been playing some Final Fight 2 and 3 on it, beaten both games. You can see I swapped out the wire there for proper 1.5 amp fuse, cleaned it up on the inside, and I've just changed the LED there for one of these rainbow flashing. It changes, I think it flashes but then it cycles through the different colours and things. It just gives it a different look really, and there's not going to be a top on this, it's just a test unit. So yeah, I'd like the LED on there like that just to catch my eye, just in case I leave it switched on or something. So the other one, all cleaned up, looks like brand new. There's barely a mark on it, so really pleased with that. So I've now got a Famicom and the PAL, Super Nintendo PAL version as well, and obviously a PAL spare. So there's region protection built into some of the controllers, and you can just about see, can you see the diodes? You've got two little there's wire links there. Can you see the diode down there? And there's a couple more diodes, there's 4 in total, 2 down there and 1 there. If you bridge across them with a wire, Japanese controllers will work on a PAL unit. So, and I did test that. I've actually undone the work I did there previously. You can see I swapped out the LED. The easiest way to do this, you can't get the board out that easily. It's best to desolder all the pins on the back of the connector there, and then you can bend the board a little bit up in order to pull the existing LED out. Obviously, once you've desoldered the legs there, and then just bend it over. You know, stick your new LED in position, bend the legs over, and solder them on this side. It's far easier. I mean, you could actually remove all the solder points there, move all these clips and stuff, and take the whole thing off. But it's just a lot of messing around just to swap out an LED. So here's the third SNES board. Look how corroded that is. Obviously, the case is smashed to pieces. Corners missing off here, but I'm not bothered about that. I just wanted it for the board. So as you can see, the bottom half of the board is all okay, but look here, it's absolutely shot. So I'm going to clean all this up. I think first point is, you know, is to clean this area, and then I've got some spare cart slots from the faulty boards, and I'll put a new one on it, I think, and we'll just give it a try like that. See if we can get any life out of it. It's just displaying a black screen at the moment. So all I've done here is just given it a preliminary clean. As you can see, I've used a cotton bud. There's still some corrosion there. What I think I'd like to do is clean this area up, you know, a lot better on the outside. Use a wire brush on any of the little contacts. You can see just a bit of corrosion down there, and then resolder all of the pins from underneath. Strictly speaking, I perhaps should really remove the whole socket. I might do that. I don't know. But if I just connect this, it's got a brand new. Well, I say brand new, it's got a good working cart slot there. So for now, point you at the screen and switch the power on. So I zoom out a little bit, switch it on. Previously it was just a black screen. In fact, it's still just a black screen, so we might have a bit of a bad connection. Let's try it again. There you go, you can see it's working. If we just wait for that to start, hopefully we should get some sound. Turn it up a bit. Yeah, all signs are it was just that corrosion. So I had a go at cleaning this up yesterday. Don't you can see most of the corrosion's off there. Perhaps just on the very underneath where it joins onto the board, there's just a tiny little bit of corrosion there. So I'm going to resolder the connector. You can see where I've exposed some of the copper there. There's some corrosion there, so I need to get some solder on there, just like give it a mask. Down here in a couple of places there's a via there that's okay, and there's this point actually up under here. You might not, yeah, you're not going to be able to see it. I'll perhaps show you in a minute when I take the heatsink back off again, and I'm probably going to reflow the edge of these chips here. I don't, you can see they're not that great because of where the corrosion's gone, particularly that chip, although I've not cleaned up around that chip yet. You can see all that white stuff deposited between the pins there. Yeah, it's just a bit dirty. You just need to clean that around that area. I've not cleaned that particular chip. But yeah, in most part here, it's not too bad. If I try and rotate this around, you can see, hopefully, down there, it's not too bad. They're all looking pretty clean, really. It's like I say, it's just at the point where the connector joins the PCB. If you look down there, you can just see one or two dull connections, and if you look very, very, very closely, there's just the odd tiny little bit of corrosion on the underside. So I think just, you know, giving it another final clean here and resoldering the connector on the other side should be sufficient. So I don't know whether you can see, I've cleaned up considerably actually around here, and I've soldered, you know, put some solder over one or two of the exposed traces. Clean with isoprop, then used a squashed cotton bud with a tiny bit WD-40 in the end, just to get, because it's a solvent, just to get any of the corrosion off there, and then clean it with isoprop again. Not on the bit that makes connection with the cart's connection that fits on there, but just on the very bottom. So that's super, super, super clean on both sides. I'll show you, I've done the same on this side as well. And again, covered any of these bits with solder mask. There's one trace there, I think, in a pad there, a little bit down here. But on the back end of the board here, I've just removed these two caps because I think they've been leaking. So you can see I need to do some clean up here. This is still got flux and all sorts on it. And there's a trace that runs across here from this point all the way across there, across the, not touching that pad, but you know, separate from it. In order to feed a connection there. So that whole area now needs cleaning up, and I need to get some new caps on there. So I've cleaned up that area a bit. You can see still quite a mess really. It's quite hard to work on that area. The pads are not in great state because of the corrosion, but you can see, I'll try and point if I can, you can see this trace here, you know, I've reinforced it with some solder. Yeah, that pad's not so clever, and this one's not so clever. It's where it's leaked out, and you know, they're bubbled up a little bit as well. So anyway, but they're still stuck on the board there, they're not coming off. So I've got some brand new SMD caps. I'm going to put those on there now. I might use some nail varnish or something just to cover that trace, but I think it should be alright. So as you can see, I've got two brand new wet type electrolytics on here, and you know, I covered the back track there with some solder. So you know, we've got a good connection there. I've tested to make sure we've not got shorts. Originally I did mount a couple of SMD caps on there, and they were perfectly aligned and everything, but the 16 volts, and I thought that would be okay. I thought I'll just measure the DC voltage, and across this cap here you've got 9 volts, so you know, a 16 volt SMD cap like that will be fine across there. On this one there was 15.85 volts, so it's like it was borderline on the 16 volt mark. Now it wasn't getting warm. I could have just left it like that with the SMD caps on there, but then I started thinking about the implications. It looks like the DC power is running through these. I'm not entirely sure why. You've got something like 12 volts on that one when it's switched off. As soon as you switch it on, it goes up to just under 16. I'd need to look at the schematics, so I'll certainly spend some time trying to work it out. But then it suddenly dawned on me, the reason these two have gone, probably, you know, they're under more strain than some of the others. Some of the others are just going to be on the 5 volt line, etc., whereas these are on the DC input. So it's probably not a good idea to have SMD electrolytics in that place anyway. I mean, it might be alright if you get really good quality ones, but from my experience, it's always the SMD ones that fail. Wet types, in this scenario here where these are used, hardly ever. As you can see, this is working now with those new caps in there after it's been cleaned up. So I think the next thing I'm going to do is clean up the old connector, just to see if we can salvage it, if we can actually get it working. So here's the old connector. You can see, you know, we've got some corrosion in there, corrosion on the sides, really bad actually, and horrendous corrosion inside here. So yeah, I think initially I'm going to get a brush onto this and some isopropyl and give it a good scrubbing. Well, I'm not going to use this, but I've cleaned it up considerably. As you can see, I've got most of the corrosion out of the contacts on the inside, and I've given it a really good clean on the inside at the front here. Some of the pins are a little bit misaligned in there. I've straightened them out as best as I can. It's like I said, some damage there, but I'm going to give it a try. I'm just interested to see, will it work or not. Well, would you believe it, you can just about tell from this side down here where there's corrosion on the edge of the connector, but it's actually working. I'll just keep that as a spare. I think it's pretty decrepit. I wouldn't want to use that as a main working slot, but yeah, it's working. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.